Romona, Africa, Minister of Communication for the MOVE organization out of Philadelphia.
All right.
MOVE organization is a revolutionary organization founded by a black man called John Africa back in the early 70s. John Africa brought people together from all different lifestyles, from various religions, various nationalities, and made us a family. And the one common bond John Africa gave us, the one singular belief that John Africa gave us, is to believe in life, to be protective of, respectful of everything that's alive, and to understand clearly that there is nothing, absolutely nothing more important than life, than what is alive and what keeps us alive. That means the air, the water, the soil. It means being protective of human life, animal life, plant life, marine life, everything that's alive. And understand that you cannot just say that you believe in equality and think that it begins and ends with humans of various colors. You know, when you truly believe in equality, you believe in the equality of life, because the instant you make an allowance for inequality for an animal, then you don't believe in equality, because the same force that put a George Bush on this earth put a deer on this earth. And if you all come from the same source, how can one be more equal than another? And this is what John Africa have taught us: the principle of equality, the principle of love of life. And you know those representing this system mouth the words equality, freedom, love, but there's no demonstration of it in this system. None at all. And it is because John Africa brings the contradiction of this system to light, shines a spotlight on it, and makes people look at it, that this system is determined to stop MOVE. But MOVE's belief, what keeps us going, who we are, is life. And you cannot stop life, number one. And number two, if it were possible to stop life, those that want to stop life would be stopping themselves, because they're alive too. So you see, MOVE can do without anything that this system has to offer. But nothing or nobody in this system can do without MOVE's belief, because our belief is the air that all life must have to breathe. Our belief is the water that all life must have to drink. Our belief is the earth, the soil that feeds all life. Our belief is the force that pushes food up through the earth to feed all life. Now, what is more powerful, more all important than that? And how can you go against that force without causing your own demise? So you see, MOVE is victorious. It can't be any other way. Long live John Africa.
Wow. So
In terms of John Africa, let me just say a couple of things. One thing is that I have never, ever met a being who is truly their belief without contradiction. John Africa believes in everything that he teaches and demonstrates it. When John Africa was arrested by the federal government, John Africa went into federal court representing himself with his belief, talking about a black man wearing, sweatshirt, jeans, long knotty hair, no political or economic influence, went into federal court, did not raise but one objection, and that was to the whole procedure, and this was at the beginning. Never raised another objection, never put on any witnesses or cross-examined anybody. And John Africa walked out of that courtroom acquitted of every single charge. John Africa gave like a 30-minute closing statement, didn't make an opening statement, but about a 30-minute closing statement about who he is and what he represents, and was acquitted of every charge that the government had put on him, which included international terrorism, uh, weapons charges, conspiracy. John Africa never ever allowed himself to be or to have the stigma of leader put on him. John Africa was our teacher. He had information to give to us, to give to anybody willing to listen. John Africa never put himself above us, and for real, in terms of any kind of material things, John Africa had less than any MOVE member. You know, John Africa did not put any priority on that. John Africa believed in life. That from a very young child, John Africa believed in life and not this system. John Africa didn't go past the second or third grade in school. He was illiterate, by system standards. He could not read or write. Instead of going to school, he would go sit out in the park with life, with the trees, the grass, the earth, water. And they could not make him go to school. They could not make him take on, the attributes of this system. And at some point in John Africa's life, in the early 70s, John Africa had a friend who was a college professor, and John Africa would talk to him and dictate information to him that this college professor named Donald Glassy would, take down and later transcribe, type up. And later on, Donald Glassy began to slowly introduce the principle, the teaching of John Africa into his class that he taught at Community College in Philadelphia. And it generated a lot of interest. And what followed that was John Africa started what are called study sessions, where people were allowed to read, some of the writings of John Africa, and then they would come together for this study session with John Africa and raise questions and discuss it, and John Africa would explain it. And those who were the most interested, the most serious about this information really became the first MOVE members. Well, first of all, we're a family. We're not just an organization. We're not just a group of people who came together to live communally. You know, um, we are a family, a true family. And in order to be a true family, it means you have the same commitment to one belief. You're all moving in the same direction, and that your belief is the foundation of everything, not cliques, within the community, not favoritism and prejudice towards your mate or your children or whatever, but the principle of righteousness is what rules. And that is the only way that you can truly be a family and live together and get along together, because that's a trusting environment, when you can trust that people are going to put what is right first and not prejudice, training, personality, or whatever. Um, so yeah, that is, what the MOVE organization strives for, and continues to strive for. It's a lifelong activity. It's not something that you can work on for 5 years and it's done. It's a lifelong activity, because we have been poisoned, contaminated by this system. And the work it takes to rid ourselves, which is the real revolution, rid ourselves of this system is lifelong work that Move people are committed to. But we understand that you cannot simply isolate yourself from the system and live in your own little bubble, in your own little island or whatever. That doesn't work. The only solution is to get rid of this system because as long as it exists, it is a threat to every living being and it will continue to influence people. And that's what Move is working toward, ridding life of this system, beginning with ridding ourselves of the system in us, which is the hardest work to do. It's okay to stand up there and tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't be doing, pointing the finger at somebody else. But it's a whole nother world to look in the mirror at yourself and be honest about the systematic training inside yourself and do the work to rid ourselves of that and clean ourselves up. That's the work that the Move organization is committed to and have been doing for over 30 years now. And as I said, it's a lifelong activity. Yeah, I mean, it's typical system media. I mean, everything that they accuse somebody else of is what they're about. I mean, right now in Iraq, they were talking about Saddam Hussein being guilty of all these atrocities, attacking, murdering his own people. And I'm saying to myself, I wasn't bombed. Our babies weren't burned alive in Iraq. That happened in the United States, in Philadelphia. You know, I mean, what's his name? Abner Louima. You know, that African brother Amadou Diallo. They weren't beaten, sodomized, murdered in Iran or China or El Salvador. That happened right in the United States. This country regularly demands of Fidel Castro that he have democratic elections so that the people can select and elect their leaders over there. And my mind flashes back to Florida in the last presidential election, and I'm saying, when is that going to happen here? George Bush was not elected by the people here, so it is very clear that this is a tactic that this government uses the media for, to create a picture of anybody that they want to eliminate or discredit, a picture that would cause people to think that such people are vicious, that these people deserve anything that the system brings down on them, and that these people are crazy. I mean, that's what they want people to believe about Move. And why? Because we want clean air, because we want pure water, because we want strong, healthy soil free of chemical pollution, free of toxic waste. Why? Because we dare to speak on injustices and contradictions in the system that we see and won't close our eyes to it, and demand that we all work together to correct these things, because we believe in and work toward peace. That makes us crazy. That makes us an enemy. Well, the only way you can work for clean air, pure water, strong, fertile soil to grow food, the only way you can believe in peace, in justice, in the principle of equality, and be an enemy is if the people who consider you an enemy don't believe in any of those things. If they believe in the opposite of those things. And this system have demonstrated that it believes in war, not peace. That it doesn't give a damn about the health, the worth of life of every living thing. They don't care about putting toxic waste in the soil, nuclear waste. They don't care about that. They don't care about dumping tons of fumes in the air. They don't care about that. But MOVE does. And if that makes us crazy, then let it be so.
Mm.
After the May 13th bombing, people had the audacity to approach me asking me, did MOVE have weapons? Aren't we violent? And I'm replaying the events of May 13th in my mind, and I understand we were surrounded by thousands of cops, armed for war. A bomb was dropped on us that ignited a fire that the firemen who were standing there refused to put out. And people ask me, are we violent? Do we believe in violence? I mean, the cops admitted to having 50 caliber machine guns, M60 automatic rifles, sniper rifles with silencers on them. Now, what did they need silencers for? Silencers are the weapon of an assassin. All right? They had a 20 millimeter armor piercing anti-tank gun. People walk by cops every day with those 357s on their hips, and they're going to ask MOVE, did we have guns? Why did we have guns? Why don't they ask cops that? Ain't nobody ever been shot and killed by a MOVE person, but how many people have been shot down by cops? And they're going to ask us why we have weapons, or did we have weapons? MOVE have made it clear that we are a peaceful people, that we are uncompromisingly opposed to violence. But we are not stupid either. We are John Africa taught. And we understand very clearly the difference between violence and self-defense. You are not violent when you defend yourself. But you are violent if you are attacked and you refuse to defend yourself, because then you are promoting, endorsing, perpetuating violence. The ultimate form of violence, masochism, suicide, because that's what you are, masochistic, suicidal, if you refuse to defend yourself. The God of life put the instinct of self-defense, and I say instinct of self-defense, in every living being, no matter how small or how large. Now, who is man to tell any living being that that instinct is wrong and you don't have the right to defend yourself? Of course this system wants people to believe that you have no right of self-defense, that you're violent, vicious, that you're a criminal if you dare to defend yourself. But meanwhile, those running this same system demands that people put their lives on the line and go to other countries and murder in the name of defense of this country. Now, what sense does that make when you are told that you are obligated to defend this country, but you have absolutely no right to defend yourself? Now, what kind of sense does that make?
It makes no sense at all. It's like they train us to be robots where they think for us and we're supposed to just follow what they say.
Absolutely. And it's to their advantage. It is absolutely to their advantage to teach people that you don't have the right to defend yourself, but you have a patriotic obligation to defend the system. Now, whose interest is that in? Certainly not in the interest of the people. Well, the only thing I know is that John Africa gave all Move people a strong belief and taught us that you are as you believe. So if you have a strong, righteous belief, then you become strong and righteous as your belief. So all the credit goes to John Africa. All I know is that I did not survive that bombing for nothing. It wasn't an accident or coincidence. It was meant for me to survive. I guess I still have work to do on this level, and I don't intend for my family, my coordinator, to have been murdered in vain. That means that I have to keep doing this work, keep the information out, and do my best to set a strong example of a Move member coordinated by John Africa. This is Romona Africa,
And Pam Africa.
putting out the word with Third Eye Limited. Put out the word.
Put out the word.